Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today we're going to start a new project, and we're going to do this in a couple of different segments. And today we're going to do the pattern for a Western style holster for a 1911 45 ACP. And if you go back the last two videos previous to this, you'll see where I made the double pouch magazine for this pistol. So we're going to get started today on that project, and then we'll move on from there. And then in some future videos, maybe the next video, we've got some great super news that I want to share with you guys. So make sure you check out the next video for that. So please come on in and let's get started. Alright, so I've got my poster board here. I've got my 1911 45 ACP. It doesn't have a magazine in it. It is unloaded. It's clear. I want to make sure that we're safe. So what I want to do is I want to make a Western style, almost like for a Peacemaker Colt type holster for this. I've always wanted to do that, so I thought, you know, I made the double magazine pouch. Let's go ahead and make the Western style holster for this gun. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to start down here toward the bottom of my poster board, and if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know I like to use the poster board as my pattern material, but I'm going to go ahead and make a mark right underneath the rear sights on my poster board on the spine of my gun. I'm going to make a mark there because that's where I want the top of it to be. It's just like if I was making one for a single action revolver. I want to make sure that I have plenty of room for my hammer to be pulled back as I was drawing. So I'm going to leave that just underneath the rear sights, so this direction toward the muzzle of the rear sight. Then I'm going to come down. I'm going to leave this at the end. I don't want to have any of the weapon sticking out of the holster at the bottom, so I'm going to make a mark just shy of touching, and this mark is vertical, just shy of touching the front sight. So I don't want this to be hard to draw like it would be if I was making a molded holster for a carry gun or something like that, personal carry gun. This is going to be different. I'm not going to personal carry this. This is more for taking to shows and things like that. But I am going to keep that sight away from the center point, just maybe an eighth of an inch. So when it's going in and out of this holster, it's not rubbing that sight. So I'll do the same vertically from that horizontal or cross line that I made just under the rear sight. So what that does is that gives me a vertical line, and this is what it looks like. And a little tiny horizontal line, and then a vertical line down at the muzzle end. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and connect those. That will be my center mark or line where that's going to fold. So I'll go ahead and darken that line, and I'm just using a pencil right now. So from that horizontal line down to the vertical line that I made on the muzzle. Then I can flip the 1911 vertically, and I want to center up the front sight on that line and center the rear sight on that line, that vertical line. Then what I can do is hold that there and just roll that over, and that'll give me a clean area here to do the outside. Now what I'll do is I'll lightly mark down here at the muzzle area on the outside. Then I'll come up here and I'll lightly mark at my trigger guard. Now remember, I want this to look more like a Western style holster than a personal carry type holster. So instead of following the outline of the 1911 or the pistol, which I normally would if I was making a personal carry holster, I'm gonna mark just where my trigger is here. So I'll put a little mark there on that vertical line. Then I'm going to move this over out of the way for a second. And this is going to be where the top of the holster is, because that's just under the rear sights. So then I can lightly make some lines. I can put it back up here if I want to take a look at it. I definitely want to make sure that my holster is going to be under my release for my mag. I don't want to put that in the holster and it hit that mag release. Definitely don't want to deal with that. And then I'm going to swoop back up toward the outside, just like I would if it was for a Colt revolver. And the reason I want to do that is I want to leave that opening here for my trigger. So I'll just keep messing with that, take a look at it. I don't want to get this on this side too high. Because I don't want it to come all the way up to the handle. I want to have plenty of room to grab a hold of the handle too. So that's going to be where I'm making this hook on the holster. That's going to be a little lower profile maybe than normal. So I'll flip it back over, take another look. I do this 2 or 3 times normally just to make sure that I've got this the way I want it. Now I'm going to have to allow for leather here to do my stitching. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see how tall this is, and it's right at, from my pattern material up to the top of this trigger guard, 7/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come away from there approximately 7/8 of an inch. Make a mark And what I can do is I can open this trigger guard opening more now. And come out to that 7/8 mark. So I've gotten rid of a lot of this stuff that I started with here. A lot of the lines that I marked on there. And again, like I said, I check these patterns just over and over and over to make sure they're exactly what I want. And then what I want to do is I want to open that up enough to where I don't have a big round end at the peak of the holster. I want a small point here. I don't want it to be real wide because I think that's just going to become cumbersome and be in the way. So I'm going to open that up a little wider here as I turn the corner. Now, I can go from that and then start doing my design. And I want to come down and do a very slow swoop down all the way to the muzzle end of the pattern. Now I want that to be, it looks like it's going to be approximately 3 inches. So I'll mark that, come down here, and then I'll take a straight edge and mark all the way to the end here. So it's starting to take a little shape. I need to double check and make sure that I have plenty of material. So normally what I like to do before I cut this out of my pattern material is on this end is I like to come off of the peak, go out just a little bit more for more material, maybe a 1/2 inch or so, and then just draw right around approximately a 1/2 inch. It doesn't have to be that critical, to the outside of that line. That way I make sure I have plenty to deal with there in case I cut this out and it was just short for the material, then I'd have to remake the pattern. This way I don't have to remake the pattern. So this would be the inside. So it would lay in here. Actually, this would be the outside because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, this would be the inside. So as this would fold over this way. If I folded this over this way, then this becomes the inside. So it just depends on which way you fold it, whether you fold it left to right or right to left. Depending on, and you can cut this out and then fold it the opposite way and make a left-handed holster out of it. So that's not that critical. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and cut this portion out, but stop up here because I want to fold that over and I want to be able to make my strap or my loop for my belt. So all I'm going to do is cut on that outside light line that I made, and I'll just get rid of this small piece, and here's my curvature of the holster at this point. Then I want to make sure that I have plenty up here to fold over to make my belt loop. So let's just I'm making sure that I'm doing this right for right or left-handed. So if I do that and leave this much and fold this over, then that's going to be for left-handed. So what I want to do in this case is I want to do the opposite. So it's going to go on the other side. So I can go ahead and cut this all the way around. That's what's so difficult for me on pattern making, is seeing what I call seeing in mind's eye. You got to be able to see what it's going to look like when it's done without it obviously being done. So we'll fold that over. Now this would be where we want the pattern material for it to fold over. So we can go ahead and I just make a big loop and make sure that I leave enough material on the pattern. I don't care if I have to cut more off later. That doesn't matter to me. Poster board, the material I use for these patterns is 50 cents a sheet. So, and I can even leave them plenty. I can make 2 or 3 patterns out of one piece. So it's very inexpensive, but it's easy to work with. Now I get down to here, and I am going to put the 1911 in there, and I'm going to fold this over, and I want to see how much room I have on my pattern to do my stitching, because I'm going to be using some fairly thick leather. So it looks like it's going to be about right here, but then when it gets up to the point up here, that's where I'm going to have to cut that down a little bit. I don't need that way up at the top. I just need the extra out here on the side. So I went 7/8 of an inch from the edge where I made my mark here. I went 7/8 of an inch out, and I did that because that was the height from my pattern material up to the top of the trigger guard. Then I added approximately another 1/2 inch just to make sure I had plenty, and that looks like that's going to be about right. Then I'm going to go ahead and trim this point up here at the top. I'm going to trim that off. Because I don't want it touching the hand grip of the gun. So let's try that again. Let's see. That's much better. So I still have plenty to stitch on, but that leaves this about a half an inch underneath the hand grip here. So let's go ahead and move that to the side. Let's fold this over. And I will trace that to the other side and cut that out. So I'm just transferring the pattern from the first side that I actually did the design on to the second side. Then we can go ahead and continue to cut this excess off. And get that out, that big piece of excess, that waste out of our way. So this is what we end up with right now. We end up with our pattern, and I am definitely going to straighten that up a little bit, and then I'll take this sharp corner off. I don't want that on there. So I'll round this little point off. Then I can look and see how I want to make this, because again, I want a concho on here when we're done, so it'll be placed right here. So I'll actually tie all this together with a strap and a concho in the end. So I want this to come down a little bit, not super far, because I don't want all this rubbing on my sights or anything on the back, but I also don't want it to come right over and look like a personal carry holster, so I do want some excess up here at the top. So I'll go ahead, fold that over, and I'm going to crease that. Then what I can do is take my pencil and I can start drawing my lines for where I want that to be cut on this side. I can open that up, cut directly on those lines, right up to the fold. Then I can take my pencil and I can kind of follow that to the back side, and then I want to come down to approximately here, about a 1/4 inch from the end of this outside flap, like that. So I can look and see where I want these lines to be. I don't want them showing on the outside. In other words, I don't want this back piece of leather that's going to end up being my belt loop. I don't want it
uh, showing behind my holster. Or showing on the outside of the holster. So I'll go ahead and I'll just bring that piece of leather down, and I'll follow that around the outside edge there. I can fold it back over and look, see if it shows. And on this side, I'm good. I need to come in this way just a little bit. And again, like I said, I trial and error this several times to make sure I get what I want on my pattern before I go ahead and head to the next step of cutting my leather. So I'll double check that. That looks good. That side looks good. So I can go ahead and cut on that finished line. Move over to the other side, do the same thing. And again, you're not going to see this. It'll be behind the holster, but it will be part of the integrity of the holster as far as it will hold the strap that the concho will go on, and it'll also be part of the backing. It'll strengthen the holster up. So I think I am going to trim this down just a little bit more. See what that looks like. And trim this side down just a little bit more. I don't need any more, than I just have to have in order for it to hold that strap and that concho and end up folding over and being my belt loop. So this will go on my belt. This is the holster side. And there's what the pattern ends up looking like. So once this is all stitched up and switched to the leather, here's what the back side would look like. So there's step one of this process of making this Western style holster for 1911 45 ACP. Thank you so much for coming along, checking out this video. I hope it helped you on making patterns. I enjoy making patterns for different projects, and then I just keep those aside in case somebody sees something that they like, and then I don't have to make that pattern again. But here's what the pattern looks like when it's folded out to the full size. So that's how I'll cut my leather out using this. So we'll go ahead on the next video and we'll start actually making this holster. I think you're going to be really surprised how sharp it's going to turn out when we're finished with it. So please come back, check out the next video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers, and that's my next goal. And I appreciate all of you that have subscribed, watch the videos, and share them. I just can't say thank you enough for that. So please come back next time.
check out the next video, check out the previous videos you haven't seen yet, and like I always say, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.